Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Ryan with Iowa Classic Cars, and welcome back to the channel. Today, me and Mikey once again are working on a project, and this week's project is cleaning up the 1959 Impala Cameo Coral original paint two-door hardtop frame. So this car came out of Kansas, where it sat since 1976. There's old Mikey right there, and the 59 behind him on the lift. Really nice frame, very dry. And today's video, we're going to be pulling the engine and transmission, taking all the suspension off here, the front and the back. We're going to be documenting where all the lines go, because we're running everything new, but will be just like factory. So the fuel line here will be in the same orientation, the brake lines, how they run along the frame, even the clips. Gonna get new clips, but gonna put it back to where it was originally. I've got some POR 15 coming. Got a gallon of that. So we'll be prepping the frame, degreasing it, and then painting it with POR. Some people will probably crucify me for that, but my black 59's got POR on the frame, and it's held up great for the last 10 years. So with that being said, let's get started. We'll just take it up high enough to get past the cross member. We'll just roll the frame.
When you run the camera for me?
All right, so now that the frame is outside and the motor's out of it, first thing we're gonna do, well, the second thing, because I've already taken pictures of how all this stuff is, we're gonna blow it off. So the big thing with these X frames is they hold a ton of dirt in the back frame rails. So we're gonna do this for about the next 20, 30 minutes. Yeah, you guys get the gist of it. Get the frame as clean as you can. Blow out all the cavities. Get it nice and clean on these inside frame rails especially. And when I'm done with this in the next hour, we'll come back. All right, guys, so made some pretty good progress today. Got the frame pretty clean. What's wild is I was doing this for about 40 minutes, and there was two big rat's nests on this frame rail, and then one over here, and also in the driver's side rail, a bunch of walnuts. So got it pretty clean. Tomorrow and the rest of this week here, we're gonna work on getting all the lines off of it, the suspension. And then once my wire wheels show up and my POR 15, we're going to start working on painting this frame and making it brand new again. Another cool thing about this is here's the VIN number, 59K137151. So the frame and the body have never been separated. Its numbers matching, which is pretty cool. So we're going to keep on this thing, and next time I see you guys, we'll be disassembling and painting. Okay, so this morning we are now going to start disassembling this frame. I've got the main stuff blown off of it. Still a lot of sanding and scrubbing to do. And I'm going to show you guys today how to break down this frame. So we're going to start in the back. I'm not going to film a time lapse here because this is actually, the back one is pretty simple to do. You first have your two control arm bolts. There's one here, one on this side. You'll have two bolts up top for your shock. I would leave the one on the bottom. However, one thing to note, if this bolt right here, this curved bolt is good, save this. They do reproduce these. I don't think they sell them for 58s, but 59 through 64 they do. And these are like $50 or $55 a set for the bolts. So if they're okay, we're going to reuse them, which these appear to be in good shape. You'll have your panhard bolt right there. And then it also comes up to the frame, single bolt right there. Getting it off of the axle sometimes can be a chore. A few times I pulled these, they come right off. Other times you have to melt the rubber with a torch and then pry it off of there. Once that's done, and these bolts are out, this whole thing will drop, but you still have your emergency brake. You can either cut this, disconnect it there, or the easiest thing that I found is to pull this cable and just get it past the notch right here and take the cable out right here. I'm not going to reuse the e-brake stuff, so that will be going away. We'll take it off the frame. Then on top, you have your banana bar, one single bolt, and that will come off. You also have some shims right here. There's 3 bolts that actually hold this plate to the banana bar. You can leave the plate for now, but I'm going to take it off because we're going to clean up the frame. On top here, you'll have one fuel line bolt that holds it in, and then it's just pretty much clipped in place. Not going to worry about that for the time being. So yeah, I'm going to get all this broken down, and when I'm done, we'll come back and I will set up a time lapse for the front because the fronts have a ton of pressure on that spring, and if you're not careful, it's a time bomb. So these you can almost take out by hand, but once the bolt comes out, it'll just drop. Not a whole lot of, I mean, there is some pressure on this, but not a whole lot compared to the front. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, so maybe I'm doing this right, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but nonetheless, I'm doing it. So in the future, we'll have a video rebuilding this axle. This is a stock 8.2 GM axle used from 55 to 64. The 55 through 57, the Tri-5s don't have these arms. They've got leaf springs. And then 58, this right here is in the middle of the pumpkin. So the 58 is 58 only, and then 59 through 64 is all the same. With that, also, I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong, but I'm doing it. I saved the original brake lines and then the fuel line. I'll be using these as templates going forward. I'm probably going to go to a dual master drum brake system. So I'll use the front portions, but then the back line, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to run a separate line to the back for a little more safety. Okay, so here is the frame. This literally took probably about 40 minutes. Just doing everything a little more careful than usual. Looks pretty good. Got the emergency brakes off. They're right here. This is the control on the front of the front of the frame. Just a cotter pin and a washer hold that on, then you take the tension off of it. Still need to take the actual control bar out, but there's a pin right there. You just knock that out. Then this section comes off, and then this thing can come out of there. Okay, so I'm not going to set up a time lapse just yet. I'm going to explain what I'm going to do here. First things first, I'm going to take off the tie rod ends right there. I'm going to take off the sway bar. I am going to leave the sway bar itself in place because these bolts in here are kind of a pain to get to. So for now, I'm just going to leave this alone, but I'm going to disconnect it right here. Take the steering off, probably disconnect it right here. And then over on this side, take this tie rod end loose and then the sway bar here. So once that is done, the steering's out of the way. These coil springs are death. I mean, we have to be careful with them, but my plan is to take the front arm off, leave the rest of it intact, and then we're going to put a floor jack underneath it. We're going to take this nut off of the shock. We're going to put a floor jack underneath it and let it walk itself down. I've had pretty good luck with that going forward, but you have to be very careful with those. You want to respect the power that they have, and I'm going to be out of the way when I do it. Last thing to note, unless these are very, very vintage replacements, you'll know that the 59 through 64 has original ball joints because they're riveted in. All the replacements today are bolt in. I'm not sure when that changed, but you know, I've seen a couple 59s that I parted out that had bolt in ball joints, but a majority of them were the riveted style. So pretty cool that they lasted all this time. So with that being said, when you're ready to pull the coils out, I'll set that up to actually show you guys the process. But in the meantime, it's just a lot of pulling cotter pins, pickle forking, hammering, unbolting, just a lot of basic stuff that I'm sure you guys don't want to watch. So that being said, I'll catch you guys here in a minute. All right, so on second thought, I'm not going to film taking the coil springs out because it was really, really sketchy. There's the one for the driver's side. My father is coming out soon to help me with the other side here. Pretty sketchy, so if you have the right tools, definitely use a spring compressor. I do not have it, so the way we did it, it worked. Put a floor jack underneath the lower control arm, use the ball hitch on top of the frame so that the car or the frame can't hop, because there is a ton, and I mean a ton of pressure on that spring. But it worked out pretty good, just gotta be a little careful. All right, so after we get that done, we're gonna get this lower control arm off. Some kind of cool things about this lower control arm I'll show you here in a minute. Gonna take off the upper control arm, and we're pretty much down to the bare frame. So we're making progress. We're gonna knock out this other side coil spring here, and we shall return momentarily. Man, it is so windy today. It's just, I mean, it's beautiful out. It's like 72 degrees, but that wind is just not ideal. So I decided that while I was working on this, setting up a camera, having my dad help me hold stuff, it wasn't working out the best. So I stripped it here, and now that we're done, I'm going to explain what I did and the best way, if you don't have a spring compressor, to get those springs off. So got the front control arms and the rear control arms, or I'm sorry, the upper and the lower control arms off. One thing to note, the upper control arms are a press-in stud. So a stud actually goes in this way, and then you have a nut on the other side. That's for your adjustment, so you can put some shims in there. But those are similar to a lug nut stud. I'm sure they're not the same size, but they're similar. The bottoms are held in with a single bolt right here and right here on each side respectively, as well as 2 bolts in the front, which are right there. So the one thing to note though about these lower control arms is they have like a bar that's tapped for the bolts inside the frame, and it just hangs in there loose. So they go in this pocket. I'm trying to find right there, right where my hand is, right there. And if you're not careful and you don't take those out, you'll lose them. And they're hard to find in good shape because they hold moisture up in that area and always get corroded. And if you try to run a bolt in there without that in place, it'll just obviously spin. So something to keep in mind there. And then the final thing today, when you're taking off the coil spring, you want to first separate the upper control arm ball joint and kind of just get it out of the way, get the ball joint out of the way. You then want to take the 2 bolts that are underneath for your shock, which are right here, take them out to get the shock loose on the bottom. Put the frame on the ground. Don't do like I did with the floor jack here. Put it on the ground so that the spring itself can't come down and shoot out. And you'll have a bolt that comes through right here for your top shock mount. Take that loose and then jack the whole thing up, knock it down, and it comes right out. Very, very simple. But if you have the right tool, take the shock out first, keep everything attached, put the coil spring compressor on, and then knock your ball joints out and pull it out that way too. So the next thing up here is to wire wheel this frame, and then we're gonna paint it. I've saved you guys the trouble of taking off the brake drums. I had to break one with the sledgehammer, and taking off the brake hardware. I've also taken off the brake lines and the emergency brake cable. So now I'm going to set the camera up. I'm going to show you how to knock these axles out of the housing. There's 4 studs with a nut and a lock washer on the back. You simply take those loose, tap the backing plate with a hammer, and the entire thing should come out, because nothing else is holding it. I mean, your main bolt and nut right here, I mean, they're not touching anything. Your little wheel cylinder, that's okay to be on there. So this thing's ready to come off here. So I'm gonna set the camera up and let's give her some persuasion. Also make sure to have a catch bucket, because this will get kind of gross. There we go. Easy as 1, 2, 3. And I believe on Tri-5s, well, some of these axles, maybe it's on Tri-5s, one is longer than the other. As far as I'm aware, X-trim Impalas 58 to 64, the axles are the same, even with Posi cars. If I'm wrong, someone correct me down below, but I've never seen a difference, and when I put in the Posi in the black 59, I reuse the axles. So 99% sure the axles are the same, doesn't matter which side they go into, but nonetheless, literally took 20 seconds to knock that one out. So let's do the other one quick, and I will take that pumpkin out. Oh man, that one doesn't want to come out. Well, that bearing is starting to move, but man, she is tight in there. So I'm getting pretty fed up with this GoPro because it would not turn on, and I had to go in and change out the battery twice before it did. So probably in the near future I'll be getting a new GoPro. However, I will show this video pulling the pumpkin off my security camera. It is a 336 non-Posi, turns really nice. If you guys want this, it's $100. Let me know. The rear end is pulled apart, and I've made a very big boo-boo. Earlier in the video, I said that the axles were the same lengths, and they are not. The left side is like 28.5, and the right side is like 29 and 7/16. So I am sorry about that. Keep them separate. Posi and non-Posi axles are the same though. So all the axles will work, but they are different sizes. The left one is smaller than the right one. So the next thing up is, we'll go over here. I've got my bearings, my axle seals, the gaskets, some extra O-rings in case I break any of them. And yeah, got National bearings. These are the good ones, the heavy duty ones, the National seals. These will be going on the axle next week. I'm gonna take them down to a local machine shop and get them pressed on. I know you can heat them up with a torch and push them off and push them on that way, but we're gonna do it the right way, and we're gonna do it with a machine shop. We're gonna clean up the frame, probably in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, get it painted, get the rear end redone, rebuilt, put that back together, get that painted, and we'll slowly start reassembling this thing. So, if you guys enjoyed the video today, leave a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think of the progress so far. I will be having to slow down before too long. Spend a lot of money on this stuff and just don't want to overdo myself here. So we're going to get what we can done for the meantime. But slow and steady wins the race. And if you're brand new, make sure to subscribe because this will be a fun build and I hope you guys will stick around for it. Thank you all for watching. My name is Ryan with Iowa Classic Cars. Felix the cat is over here chilling, aren't you, buddy? Yeah, he's tired of watching me today. And I will catch you guys next week.